Hi guys, and welcome to the first ever Lowland League Catchup. Today we'll be talking about the goings on in the Scottish Lowland League, and today I am joined by Mozza. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm very good, mate. How's yourself?
Good. I'm pleased that you've joined me today. Obviously, this is just our first episode of this. We're going to see how it works out and, basically give people information on the Lowland League business end of, of the game that we were both at. I think we promoted it quite a lot and had a lot of banter with it, obviously, which I think both the clubs got involved with as well. So yeah, very entertaining game. Obviously, the result, Kelty Hearts won 3-2. Not quite to the prediction I was kind of goaded into making last week, but yeah, Kelty Hearts win.
Yeah, so obviously BSC home game, really big game for the club, given that the results haven't been absolutely brilliant at the start of the season. It's had a really tough start. Same with Kelty, right enough. Neither team's really kind of going to get all the points they would have wanted to get, I suspect.
Agreed, yeah.
But then what I can only describe as the weirdest 5 minutes of football you'll see in the Lowland League this year. At the start of the second half, where firstly managed to get it back to level pegging when it was Big Errol Douglas played a ball back to the keeper, and he tried to essentially be a midfielder and dribble it past. I think it was Strachan.
It was
again.
Adam Strachan, yeah.
Strachan got the foot in, got the ball, almost managed to miss an open goal by putting it towards the keeper. Got the ball back, he managed to put it away, and managed to he ran off celebrating, basically doing the few sign, which kind of said it all.
Aye.
And within about 2 minutes, again, another just calamity in the back, but this time for BSC, cross in, and big centre back comes off his head, hits the post. The goalkeeper thinks it's gone wide, so Marshall kind of just rooted to the spot, and big Scott Dale's there to tap it in. So if you've not had a chance to see the highlights, get onto Kelty's YouTube channel, and they always do a really good job with them. So you'll see what we're trying to explain here, because I don't think words will ever do it justice. This couple of minutes of football, we were treated to just sum the game up in a couple of sentences as that's the Lowland League at its best.
Yeah.
Because it was rough and tumble, it was quick, there was goals, there was entertainment, there was goal mouth scrambles. It was everything you want in a game at that level. And Adam actually said, I'm sure he won't mind me re-quoting him, especially if we throw a wee plug in for his blog that he's put his thoughts down on today. But the quality was impressing him. As a guy that goes around these grounds and sees teams all the way through the non-league, he actually said he was pleasantly surprised with not just entertainment, but the actual quality of the football on show as well, which bodes well going forward for, well, not just these two teams, but all the teams in the league.
Going into the second game, mate, you spoke about this last week about East Kilbride. They have dropped their first points in the league against a university team, Edinburgh Uni, with a really decent 1-1 draw against Kilby, the league leaders, obviously. Ross McNeil, our very man, put them up within 11 minutes, and Abdul Youssef with from what I heard, a cheeky lob just before half time. But it looked like Edinburgh did manage to hold on for the draw.
Yeah. Well, this story's got arms and legs about wee Abdul, I think, because initially I'd heard it was basically Craig Reid had the ball in defence for East Kilbride, lost possession to Yusuf, and he's managed to lob it right in. But it started off being 25 yards, and I think it's now 40 or 50 yards it went in from what I've seen on social media. But our pal from the Lowland League website, Alistair, was at the game, Alistair Wollaston, and he remarked that Abdul Yusuf is now his favourite Lowland League player because it was a almost Berbatov-esque no celebration, just I did that, let's get on with it, which sounds pretty glorious, especially when you're scoring against the league leaders and what many people think will be the runaway champions. But yeah, it just shows they're not infallible, and the same as last year, a university side again has managed to take points off them, so it'll give hope to all the other teams in the chasing pack who maybe have already dropped a few points here and there, and especially for Dorian and Edinburgh Uni. I say it every single year, the job he does given that he's got to get a brand new group of guys in. He always loses top players every year to either kind of competitive clubs or SPFL or just leaving the uni full stop. He has done a brilliant job there the last few years, moulding squads, getting them competitive, and well, they're pretty comfortably Lowland League stalwarts at this point.
We're also joined by Michael Park, the Media and Communications at Geosonic Lowland League and also BSE Glasgow. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm pretty good. Thanks very much for having me on.
Obviously, your first time on the podcast, Michael. I think can we put you down as co-creator for it as well? You did kind of sort of help.
I'd love to take all the credit because that's the kind of person that I am. But no, I mean, you came to me with the idea and it was something that we'd been kind of batting about and we didn't have, what's the best way to put it, the time to do it ourselves. And then you guys came along and you were like, we could do this. And I was like, oh my God, yes. My people. So it's entirely in your courts. Plus that way, if you get into trouble, I can't take the blame for it.
Fair enough. So obviously, myself and Moz have been discussing every week, our thoughts on teams, thoughts on the league. What are your initial thoughts on the sort of start of the season, on the league? How are things going, basically?
I mean, obviously, there's been some negative sides of things with that's kept us pretty busy with Selkirk and whatnot, which is obviously a pity. But in terms of the actual football, it's been really exciting. And in terms of the sort of engagement that we've had from supporters and people coming completely fresh to the Lowland League, there seems to be a lot of excitement. I think that possibly there's some teams who will be down the bottom end of the table who will feel like they're due a resurgence. There's some teams up the top who are possibly going to get a nosebleed. So it's turning out to be a really exciting start to the season. I mean, we're obviously sort of, well, some teams are 4 games away from it, but some teams are just 2 away from having played a third of the season already. So it's exciting. I'm into it.
Yeah, I mean, you talked obviously about sort of fan engagement and whatnot. Obviously, we're all sort of involved in the media team, and yourself obviously kind of sort of top of it basically. But if anyone was wanting to sort of get involved at sort of Lowland League level or maybe involved with the clubs, is there any advice you can sort of give on how one would sort of go to get involved, if you will?
Absolutely. Probably the most important thing that we have in the Lowland League is volunteers, whether that's like guys like yourselves doing the media team, whether it's people at clubs who run the turnstile, run the tea stand, run absolutely anything on a match day and in between. The one thing that I would say from working in the league and working with a club is these people are the lifeblood of the league and they're what makes it special. With that in mind, if you want to do media for a club and you want to join the Lowland League media team, then come talk to me. You can get me on the Lowland League Twitter, or you can get me my own Twitter, which I'm sure I'll be able to plug later on before Moza, hopefully. Or, find my email address on the website and shoot me an email. And even if you want to get involved with a club, I can try and help you and speak to clubs on your behalf and that kind of thing. So it's always my pleasure to get more people involved working with clubs and working with the league because I love it and I really like spreading that joy.
Obviously under the radar in the league, but Gretna, what a result that was. 2-1 over Edisport. Their third win in a row, including the 2 cup games they played in the last couple of weeks. Daniel Fitzpatrick after 31 minutes. And what an ending this is. Jordan Alexandra for Edisport in the 90th minute, and then Kevin Connolly the 91st minute. It was from Kev that I got the information, but he said it was a 30-yard rocket. We'll have to take his word with it, obviously, because he's not been at the game. But what a result! What a result for Gretna that is.
I've not heard from Kevin today or seen him on Twitter. I'm sure it's 40 yards by now, but it sounds like he scored a bit of a belter, and he's not got a goal the last couple of games, so it's good for him to get back on track. Given that he was their Mr. Goals last season, but it's a somewhat ending, like you say, to it. And we actually said on the previous podcast, it'll be interesting to see if Gretna turn their cup form into league form.
Yep.
And they've gone and done it, especially against a team in Edusport that were looking pretty decent, let's be honest, and they still are. But but flying under the radar, just picking up points quietly. So it's a cracking result for them. And they could have easily dropped the heads with that 90th minute equaliser, but they've picked themselves back up and gone and won the game right at the death. And, all power to them.
I love it. I think we spoke about it previously, but I love it how whoever's running the Gretna Twitter is obviously tweeting at us, letting us know about the results, which I really appreciate, because at the end of the day, we've not had much to say about them in terms of way of results. So I totally accept that. That look, we've done this. You guys need to talk about it and give it the credit it's due, and quite rightly so. It's a brilliant result from Gretna, and it doesn't create much distance between the sort of bottom clubs, but certainly it gives them a wee bit of breathing space in terms of the league, and from the White Hills, the Dalbeatties and whatnot. So
yeah, it gives a wee bit of cushion. Because when you look at the table now, I know they're still sitting 13th, so they're still in danger, kind of at the bottom. But there is a 5-point gap there now, and they've got a game in hand on Whitehill. So every point's important at that side of the table. And if they pick up another couple of wins, it might not be downwards or looking. They might be looking up towards mid-table and kind of try and cement things up that side of things.
Definitely, and it's a tough loss for Edisport. Obviously, we kind of touched on it, but that could have really consolidated them as a potential challenger at the top end. So that is such a tough loss for them.
I mean, yeah, they're never say never, but it's a tough one to take. Absolutely.
So getting into the first game, Gala beating champion Spartans 3-1. It was a fantastic result for Gala, obviously. I did feel last week that they could possibly get a result there, and it didn't start well for them, obviously. Spartans, David Greenhill had a chance early on in the first half, but it was rattled off the bar. Jamie Dishington, who we've often spoke about, were so close to becoming known as the Jamie Dishington Fancast, before half-time from inside the box made it 1-0 Spartans. But what a second half from Gala. Sean McCurdy from a quick free kick. Rory Payton, who's obviously on loan from Hibs, he's bang on form with the second to make it 2-1. Jack Smith had the ball in the net, but it was denied an equaliser as the ref and linesman conferred to give an offside, despite, from what I heard, no earlier frag. So Spartans might have a bit of a cause for a bit of frustration there, certainly. But Gala, the victory was sealed with Tommy Patterson getting a free kick. So it's a fantastic one for Gala. Definitely my game of the weekend. Certainly, Spartans' unbeaten record comes to an end, and they also lose top spot. Any issues with this going top of the bill, Mozza?
Well, you kind of have to put it top of the bill. It's a bit of a stunning result for Gala, let's be honest. Because when we spoke about this game in the run-up to it, we were talking about how Spartans just seem to get the job done. They're pretty clinical. They very, very rarely concede 3 goals. So it just shows you that Gala had a bit of a slow start, and we talked about that a few times. But they've run into a wee bit of form, and that's you can't argue with that result against a team of Spartans' calibre that have been there, done that, and are reigning champions at the end of the day.
We do have one fixture that was postponed, the old weather watch coming into winter now. Dalbeattie Star versus BSC Glasgow was postponed due to what I heard was a bit of a storm.
Yeah, I believe the phrase was horizontal rain, so that kind of tells you how wild it was. But yeah, it's just one of these things. You expect at this time of year the weather's going to start turning, but no doubt they'll get it rearranged and pretty good time and go from there.
Yeah, and just on that note, I noticed a lot of our colleagues, Craig Edwards and Alistair, were caught up in some of the games over the Lowland League, and the weather wasn't particularly great at them either. So,
good old-fashioned Scottish football's back.
Great. We'll start with, as I say, the early kick-off. It was Whitehill Welfare versus Vale of Leven. Kyle Mitchell with the free kick into the box, with Sean Lally there with the header putting Whitehill Welfare up in 8 minutes. Vale were down to 10 men with David Bonner sent off for a rash challenge from behind on Kyle Mitchell just before half time on 41 minutes. The second half kind of lit up a wee bit. Lyle Smith with a cracking free kick equalised for Vale in the 59th minute, and Kyle Mitchell put Whitehill Welfare ahead again on the 75th minute. He controlled the ball and hammered it home after Liam McIntosh's shot went off the post. Whitehill Welfare did have a goal disallowed in the 86th minute. It wasn't given. Mark Malloy was flagged for offside. And a bit of a heartbreak moment for Whitehill Welfare. 89th minute, it was a goal for Vale. Paul Dixon header at the back post from a corner. Very, very tough game. Although they got a point out of it, I'm sure Whitehill Welfare would have wanted to win there. Very, very tough fixture against Vale.
You've got to feel for them. You really do, because we've said it week in, week out recently that they need to find their first 3 points from somewhere in a while and get moving. And it looked like they had it. They were so close. They had everything in their favour. They'd actually gone away to Vale, bear in mind, which is no easy place to go this season. We know what they're capable of in terms of goal scoring. And getting them down to 10 men, being 2-1 up, getting flagged offside with less than 5 minutes to go 2 goals to the good, and then conceding in the last minute, it's an absolute heartbreaker for them.
And to my game of the week, everyone was wrong about this one.
Yeah.
I know Stirling Uni retweeted it, so I might have been a bit of bias there, but Vale Leven versus University of Stirling, it was 1-0 Vale. Quite a remarkable game actually. 25 minutes played, it was an own goal to put Vale Leven 1-0 up. Liam Ireland, who we praised last week, Mozza, he had a penalty saved by University of Stirling keeper Kevin Walker. Shout out to Chris Geddes, the gaffer got a run out, 65 minutes played. 75th minute played, it was a penalty to Stirling Uni with Ross Gilpin saving, and just before the end of the game it was another Uni penalty and another Gilpin save. So free save penalties. From what I've heard, Stirling, by their own admission, couldn't buy a goal apart from the one they gave to Vale. We've talked about this before, mate. Obviously, for whatever reason, they create a lot of chances, but sometimes they just cannot get a goal.
This is a bit of a freak game though, isn't it? It's a tale of two keepers who have both played absolutely fantastic football by the sounds of it. And ultimately Vale have won it by, from Stirling's admission, a goal they've gifted to them. With just a kind of slip at the back, but a slack defending. But yeah, it's a really hard one to give feedback on, I'll be honest, just because it's one of these games when there's so many penalties. I think the only thing you can do is give credit to the keepers and move on to next week and see if they can find other ways of getting the ball in the back of the net, you know.
Getting into the game we were at, Mozza, Stirling Uni, obviously a bit of a bogey team for Civil. I don't think they've ever taken a point off them, but that changed on Saturday. They won 1-0. Hammy, aka Ian Ballantyne, fires Civil ahead on the stroke of half time to make it 1-0 Civil. There wasn't really much to talk about in the game apart from perhaps Josh Donaldson wearing pink. Yeah, his strip was too similar to Stirling Uni's. He had the green socks, the green shorts, and a almost like a Palermo top, I think I mentioned. There was a wee bit of a banter between the Twitter accounts, if you will. Obviously the Stirling Uni chaplain missed the start of the second half due to the 3-mile walk. I think,
quote unquote.
I think what did I describe it to you as, mate? I think a Lord of the Rings adventure trying to get to it. So I can see where he's coming. See where he's coming from there. But you know, great from Civil as well. Not quite 3 miles. The joys of playing teams with their own ground, I suppose. It's a brilliant comeback. Yeah, the wind really hampered this game. I think both teams played fairly decent football given the conditions. It was kind of similar at the Spartans Kelty game. It was windy, it was rainy, very hard for players to really put anything together in terms of attempts on goal or what. Civil took their chance. I think that was the difference. We did kind of. Yeah. I think Rory McEwen had a really good game for Stirling Uni, as well as Matthew Burrows. His long throws were pretty much effective, putting pressure on Civil. But yeah, well deserved for Civil. I think they were overall the better team and thoroughly deserved the win.
Obviously, thank you to the guys at Strollers who made us feel really welcome, and no doubt we'll be back.
Definitely, Mozza. And obviously I think Andy Mayer and Craig Newell's really done well as got to mention Kyle Fee as well, and Kerr Allen. I was winding him up a wee bit before the game, obviously on Twitter. I forgot how big he is actually, so maybe I won't be teasing him anymore. But we would have loved to have had a chat with the guys. I'm sure we'll have our chance, but there wasn't really much to talk about in the game, eh?
No, it was one of those that I think they were just happy to get the 3 points and get back into the dressing room and thaw out at the end of the day. You mentioned Andy Mayer there. For me, he was the best player in the park.
Yep.
He's for a guy at this level to have really decent technique like he's got. He's always comfortable. He never looks kind of under pressure or whatnot, and he's more of an attacking threat, isn't he? Like, even though he's a left back, he's pretty much a wing back or going into a winger, and he's got something about him. It's simple as that. He's one of these players that he can win a game for you with one good cross in or one good pass through. Just really impressed with him, full stop.
And we have to obviously mention Kerr Allen. He had a bit of skills on display in the second half, I noticed. But yeah, they're top four and they're looking good. My only concern would be the fact that it's going to be really tough against Spartans, the way they played. But Civil, again, straight up there as well. Can't take anything away from them. And obviously, it was our first day out, Muzz. I mean, I think a lot of people maybe got put off with the wind as well, but all in all, it was great. I was happy with my Greg's Tuna Crunch. No sponsors there, but yeah, it was fantastic. We obviously had a really good time, I think, at Strollers. But yeah, the boys were having a munch after the game, and I didn't really exactly want to disturb them. Who am I to disturb the sandwiches?
Aye, don't get in the way of hungry footballers. But no, it's obviously something we've talked about that we're going to start doing more and more with the different teams that we've not been able to visit as yet. Given that, well, not just myself and you, but obviously Sean now in the pod as well. I think it's important that we get to see as many of the teams in the flesh as possible. So, well, no doubt we'll make arrangements to get to other teams as we go, and we'll just get an idea of exactly kind of what else is out there in the league and the experiences as well, because I think it's important that we give every club a chance to kind of put themselves out there and what they're about, and hopefully help to get another couple of bodies in on the gate. Star have came through a really tough slate of games and they've done fantastically well to get what they've got out of them. I don't think many people would have expected them to come through these games and not get beaten. So, but far from avoiding defeat and kind of clinging on to a draw, it sounds like they were unfortunate not to beat Spartans.
Yep.
Ultimately, as the Spartans Twitter account said, Carswell pulled off an absolute brilliant save from Milligan in the kind of dying 10 minutes or so. But yeah, you've got to give credit to Dalbeattie when the chips have been down, end of the season, welfare kind of fighting for their lives and trying to catch up with them. Star have hit the gas pedal and have gone and done what they had to do to basically avoid bottom spot, all things considered, and potentially maybe even get off a 14th. So yeah, great run of results from them.
Yeah, brilliant, mate. And we'll just move on straight to Saturday's game. Dalbeattie Star 2, BSC Glasgow 1. Another fantastic result for Dalbeattie. A few changes for BSC. Ben Quigley replaced Carlo Pignatiello in a different position. Meanwhile, there was debutants Jordan Marshall, formerly of Cumbernauld Colts, and Thomas Collins were on the bench for BSC. Early chance, gorgeous ball over to the top from Declan Hughes, gets into the path of Tam Orr, but his strike is well parried by Vinnie Parker's face. That must have been a sore one. 16 minutes, Ben Irvine gets some space on the edge of the box and cracks the BSC bar. Ben Irvine and Robbie McNabb get into what could be described as a disagreement in the BSC half. I believe Ross Smith was actually booked in that sort of confrontation, if you will, for dissent.
Yep.
31 minutes, Star put it out for a throw, and one of the spectators goes flying backwards over a wheelie bin as he goes to catch the ball.
Just to point out at that point as well, it wasn't any old spectator as well, it was Queen of the South's third choice keeper, I'm led to believe. So made a spectacular save just to let people know that he's still available, you know.
Is the wheelie bin sent off for that, or does anyone know?
You lost the punchline in that.
But, 35 minutes, penalty to Star. Liam Park bursts through on goal and flicks the ball on as Ryan Marshall comes out to claim it. The Star number 7 goes over and Lewis Sloan scores the resulting spot kick to put Star 1-0 up. Marshall did go the right way, but he couldn't quite reach it. It was a half-time substitution for BSC, Ben Quigley coming off and Thomas Collins comes on to make his debut for BSC. 2 minutes later, he scores with his first touch for BSC to get the equaliser there. Declan Hughes angled a gorgeous... Everything Declan does is gorgeous, I've noticed.
You might notice that Michael Park quite likes Declan.
Declan Hughes angled a gorgeous 30-yard volley onto Martin Graham, who headed it down for Collins to tap in at the near post. That description of the goal there. 50 minutes, Ewan O'Reilly has the ball in the back of the net with an amazing accidental lob off Finney Parker, but the ref pulls it back for a free kick. Not sure what for. And it was a goal for Star. Scott Milligan turns beautifully as the ball comes into the box. His twisting header beats Ryan Marshall to put Dalbeattie 2-1 up there and give them the lead. 88 minutes, Thomas Collins goes into the referee's book for dissent before Ross Smith is sent off. And that was pretty much the end of the game. Dalbeattie, depending on who you ask, completely deserved the win there by the sounds of things. But it's, as we mentioned, a great run by Dalbeattie. Is there a bit of pressure on a wee bit for BSC? You know, the run finally over 19 matches, incredibly. They went undefeated, but obviously that's came to an end there. So yeah, it was a great review of the game from Martin Greer, I noticed. And obviously Curtis Wilson disagreed.
Yeah, it was an interesting back and forth, wasn't it? I suspect the two of them have got very different opinions on the way that Dalbeattie play football, shall we say. I'll let you go and find it yourselves on Twitter if you're that way inclined. But that's the other thing I do love about this league. Guys are quite happy to say what they think. I actually retweeted Green at that point saying, well, you've got to love the fact that he just doesn't care what people think about what his opinions are. He's putting his opinion out there. But yeah, all things considered, I think from everything I've kind of picked up on, Dalbeattie did deserve the 3 points ultimately.
As I said on Twitter, like they've just went out the last sort of few games and done what they've had to do basically, and obviously Dalbeattie mentioned the fact that they wish it would have been the start of the season, not the end, but fair play to them. Absolutely well deserved the last few results.
Well, to give you an indication, I was doing some streaming on Saturday and somebody asked me what I thought about the BSC game, and I actually said at that point I fancied Dalbeattie to do something, to at least get a point, and that's a sea change from where we were even a month ago in this podcast.
Yeah.
You just wouldn't have seen them picking up points against these teams. So you've got to give credit to the guys and the gaffer altogether. We, as a trio, went to the East Kilbride Spartans game where Kilby ultimately went ahead and clinched the league title. We're joined by Ronan, who runs the SLFL.co.uk website as well now. I chatted after it. But it was a cracking game to get along to, and a really decent crowd at Kilby as well. Started off with 6 minutes on the clock. Jason Stevens firing at goal from the edge of the box, but Willie Muir dealt with it pretty comfortably. Paul Woods then got his first sight of goal in 10 minutes for the Kilby, 25 yards out, but it couldn't get the stride down basically, so he couldn't trouble Carswell at all. A few minutes later, Sean Winter got his opening. He headed wide from a cracking BJ Call cross. He was unmarked and he got up well, so you could tell he was kind of disappointed not to at least hit the target. And straight afterwards, again, Winter this time providing, crossing in for Craig Malcolm. I'm not quite sure how he did it, but he managed to scoop it over the bar from 12 yards. But it was all one way at this point. 22 minutes then on the clock. Brady's strike, firstly, saved well by Blair Carswell. And straight afterwards, pretty much, Malcolm had a header cleared off the line. So it was looking as if it was going to be a bit of a rout at this stage if they got the first goal. Spartans then began to get a wee bit of a foothold and kind of calm things down. A wee bit of handbags on the half-hour mark with Holmes and McFarlane booked for just kind of falling out with each other, shall we say. And otherwise, again, it was still Kilby chances at the end of the first half that Brady had a shot deflected into the path of Proctor. he showed why he's a centre back at that point and blazed the ball completely out the ground when it might have been easier to hit the target. Apologies, big man. And straight after a kind of rapid counter attack, Malcolm really should have scored 1-1, but we need to give the credit to Blair Carswell, who had a really decent night in nets for Spartans, kind of proving why he's one of the best goalkeepers in the league. There was only really one other chance, with Maxwell creating space for a shot, but kind of finishing the half as it started for Spartans, getting a half chance straight at the keeper though, who dealt with it comfortably, and half time 0-0. At that point, I think, kind of looking at it, Sean, we thought Kilby were the better team overall in the first half, but Spartans certainly came to play.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And then straight into the second half, then it was actually Spartans that started to better, in all honesty, because Jamie Dishington, within the first few minutes of the second half, was collecting balls. He drove one of them up to 25 yards out, had a pop, and it was just past the top corner. It was a cracking attempt. But then Kilby do what they do. They approached an hour mark. Woods and Malcolm started into play and played a 1-2. Unfortunately for Woods, he then leant back when he was striking the ball and it went slightly over the top. But it was a sign of what was to come, because the goal came just as the hour mark approached. The opening goal, Craig Malcolm, that man again, sticking it in the back of the net. 5 minutes later though, at this point Jack Smith came on for Spartans and largely changed the game. He almost nipped in straight off. BG Cole just thwarted him. But basically he was making darting runs in behind. The EK backline and getting a bit of joy. Again, a minute later, he had another chance very similar, forcing Muir this time to make a save to his near post. And in the 68th minute, finally, it happened. Spartans got their equaliser through McDonald. Smith with a bad touch. It came perfectly through to McDonald though, and he drilled it into the bottom corner. If you ask Smith though, I suspect he'll probably tell you he meant it as a pass, but we'll see. But yeah, 1-1. And at that point it looks like it might be another game to wait for East Kilbride, but they just kind of did what all good champions do. They got moving again. Malcolm had another chance, but again put it over the bar from a knockdown in the box. And the big moment came with just over 10 minutes left. Sean Winter in the back post, ball broke to him. It looks like it got stuck under his feet, but he did enough to get it out and smash it into the net. Cracking goal, 2-1. And to be honest, from there it looks more likely that Kilby would extend it. Malcolm dinked it over the keeper and just over the bar in the last kind of 5 minutes. There was one big chance for Spartans where Brown had a shot that landed on the roof of the net, dip and volley kind of thing, and that was it basically. And I guess the only other thing to mention was that David Brown made some friends with the locals, but it was a cracking game for the neutrals. And we did get a chance to speak to Kilby manager Stuart Malcolm after the game, and really nice guy. Thanks again, mate, for giving us time after the game, especially when all the boys, including the aforementioned Sean Winter, were celebrating in the background. You could hear them.
We'll start with the Football Nations qualifying cup final, Spartans versus Camelin. It was 2 second half goals from David Greenhill and Adam Corbett, which saw Spartans end their season on a high, beating Camelin Juniors to lift the cup. Forester Park, the home of Trannan Juniors, was the setting for the final. Perfect playing surface from the East Lothian side, which says a lot. Obviously, they have to be congratulated, I think, for their pitch condition. Simply, this late in the season, it's good to see that. There was no sort of clear-cut chances in the first half. So at the half-time, it was 0-0. An early second-half injury saw Jack Smith replaced by 16-year-old Nicky Reid. The youngster who started in the under-20 side this season almost made the ultimate impact when he got to the end of Blair Atkinson's run, only to see his shot go narrowly wide. The deadlock was broken on the 65th minute. Nicky Reid forced his way into the box where the ball broke to David Greenhill on the edge of the box, and the midfielder slammed a stunning half volley into the corner, sending the Spartans faithful into raptures. I like that. Camelin looked to find a way back into the tie and were close to 11 proceedings through Jordan Heron, but he headed past Blair Carswell's post. The miss proved to be costly as keeper Dean Shaw could only parry Scott Maxwell's shot into the path of Adam Corbett, who headed into an unguarded net from 18 yards with 13 to go on the clock. Cameron's afternoon looked like it couldn't get any worse. Goalkeeper Dean Shaw saw red for foul and abusive language towards the standing linesman. So Spartans, champions of the Football Nation Qualifying Cup, as I mentioned, a really great way to complete the season. Commiserations to Camelin, obviously. I think you were at the Camelin game when they played Kelty. They looked like a decent outfit. Dean Shaw, obviously, unfortunately, gets sent off there. He's usually a big sort of character in goals for them. So not a great way to finish off the season in the cup final for them. But it's good to see people like Nicky Reid play. Certainly, I mean he's kind of been a bit of a revelation towards the end of the season. Really talented young footballer, and 16-year-old. He's not the biggest of stature either, and he seems to be able to handle himself. It just shows that the young guys, the Spartans that get a chance, seem to be doing bits. I liked their video. I don't know if you managed to see it, Sean. The video that they done on the cup final, it was pretty nice.
Yeah, I did. I thought it was a nice touch there, and it's Spartans Twitter guy just showing again that don't think there's anything that guy can't do. Sitting doing their Twitter, their photos. Now he's dabbling in a bit of video editing, so we might see him playing next season. Who knows?
So getting into the Lowland League Cup, BSC Glasgow versus East Stirlingshire. It was played at East Peffermill, obviously the home of fellow Lowland League team Edinburgh University. From what I saw of the first half, but it looked like BSC were on the ascendancy. They did take the lead on the 32nd minute. Cammy Ballantyne puts it away, firing low beyond Jamie Barclay. It was a really tidy finish actually. And just before half time, Martin Green puts it away after Tamore's shot is deflected off the defender. So it looked really comfortable for BSC from the first half from what I saw. Second half, Shire sort of came out and done fantastically well to sort of change the way the game was going. It was a goal in the 55th minute. It was a wild strike. It took a bit of a deflection off a BSC player. Didn't really catch who it was, but it looked into the goal. Shire back into the game, and 3 minutes later, Ben Quigley is sent off for BSC after a last man challenge. We had a bit of a debate, all the guys around us. There was a few Kelty boys there as well watching the game. I don't think they'll mind me saying, but we obviously was Kelty in the morning, and then I sort of made this game, so a few of the other boys decided to jump along. But I didn't think it was a sending off because of the whole change in the rule. He was last man, but I don't think it was a clear-cut goal chance, so I think Ben was a wee bit harsh. Some other people saw it as a sending off. I can't remember what Mozza said. I think he saw it as a sending off, which was a bit weird coming from our BSC fans. But yeah, either way, they went down to 10 men. It kind of died down a wee bit, Shire. I think BSC sort of done well with 10 men. The game, it just sort of died out a wee bit. It looked like Shire were sort of... it wasn't going to be their day sort of thing. The gaffer did come on in the 81st minute, replacing David McGawkey. Obviously, Dell... 2 minutes later, he put on this really rough challenge against Declan Hughes and got booked. 2 minutes being on the pitch, obviously a bit typical of the gaffer there, but it is what it is. Shire did have a massive chance right at the end of the game. Andy Rogers, he blasts a header wide just from a corner, but it was so close. I think it might even touch the post if I remember right. But really, I think BSC deserved winners. Obviously, Paolo, Martin Green, loved every minute of it. I think we say a lot about BSC, mainly because, I certainly do, obviously, because of Mozza. He's a fan of BSC, kind of give him a wee bit of stick here and there, but for the short time they've been in existence as a club, their trophy cabinet is certainly filling up. They're streetwise as a team. They've got a lot of characters in there. I thought Martin Green obviously had a really good game. Tamor. Ross Smith I thought was pretty decent. Guys that are that will do well for them. Yeah, as I say, streetwise physical football. It was their best ever league finish. They were top scorers in the league by one, I think, from East Kilbride. Fantastic way for Swifty and the lads to finish off the season, really. We've got a few talking points, obviously, this week, but we'll get into them a wee bit later. obviously the talking points were Rangers right in not giving the Guard of Honour to Celtic. Obviously joking about that. The real talking point was obviously who's going to die in tonight's Game of Thrones episode. I don't know how well the Game of Thrones chat.
East Kilbride aren't going to have to play Cove again next year if they win the league, because it ended 4-0 to Cove, so it wasn't just a win, it was an absolute demolition. It was 4 going on 6 or 7 from the reports that were there. Charlie Mann was there for BBC Scotland, and he was pretty effusive in his praise for the Highland Rangers, I should say, no, the wee Rangers, because they're both wee Rangers. It's another interesting dynamic to throw into the kind of brief previews we've looked at already about these teams and how they're going to shape up and what their aims and ambitions are going to be. It looks like we might have the Borderers to throw in here as well. Myself and Sean, when we saw Cove, we expected them to go up with relative ease, and so it seems to be proven.
Yeah, agreed. I absolutely agreed, Muzza. I think the only thing I'm really sweating is when to follow them from the Catchup, because I don't know how much they're going to enjoy coming down to the Lowland League, but I'll give it a few weeks after it, and then I'll give them a wee follow.
All we need to do is get Shire to explain it's not the end of the world.
Yep, exactly. And again, I think it's always tough. Like, from knowing the guys at Shire, I think they found it very tough. Obviously coming to this league. But speaking to some of the fans throughout the season, they've obviously said we really enjoy this league. We're actually, winning.
Yeah.
From a tough position before, maybe in league football. So. Again, it's like what you said, it's not the end of the world, and hopefully they'll enjoy being in the Lowland League. Welcome to the party, basically. So we'll get into our team of the season. The polls, there's lots of votes for, we can definitely tell who the popular boys are in the league now. For keeper, it was Blair Carswell, obviously the Spartans keeper, 50% of the vote. The Cat. Another Spartans boy, the skipper, right back, Mikey Herd, Adam Corbett. It was getting a wee bit embarrassing. Spartans guys obviously very popular. Angus Mailer of Stirling Uni. Kieran Macaulay at left back was an interesting one. It was over 500 votes on this, obviously a very popular boy. It was close with Gary Chen of Spartans as well. So another Spartans boy at right mid, Jamie Dishington. Declan Hughes at centre mid for BSC. Lewis Hunter of Stirling Uni. Blair Lyons with 50% of the vote for Stirling Uni at left mid as well. Rory Payton of Gala, obviously on loan from Hibernian, and Stuart Cargill, the other forward there. Well, I think all the boys deserve to be mentioned, especially Angus Mailer. I don't think he would have been obvious for a lot of people, because obviously there's a lot of good centre backs, but the fact that he played over 50 games this season for Stirling Uni, he deserved to be mentioned, and I'm glad he's made the viewers team, or whatever we're calling it. Manager obviously Chris Geddes of Stirling Uni, so we've got a bit of a Spartan Stirling Uni thing going there. Obviously the two Kelty boys, Rory Payton of Gala, Declan Hughes of BSC, but Spartans Uni, I think, most of the team, very popular. So what are your thoughts on that, guys?
Probably not too many surprises in there, to be perfectly honest. Kieran Macaulay maybe sticks out a wee bit, considering he's not played every game for Kelty at left back, so maybe a bit coming in for left field there, I don't know, but you probably couldn't argue too much with most of the rest of the names that are on there.
To be fair, when you look at the centre mid combo, that's the mid combo I had in my actual team of the season. Declan Hughes and Lewis Hunter. So just on the basis of that, I don't want to argue too much. Trying to say this justifies what I said. But the one thing I would say is it's good to see Rory Payton getting acknowledgement, because playing for Gala, you don't always get the kind of attention or respect you deserve, I don't think, for putting in good performances, and he's clearly managed to bridge that gap, and he's been absolutely brilliant on loan for them, so congratulations to him.
For me, Kieran Macaulay was obviously Bridie. Scott McBride came in later, the second half of the season, and then Kier kind of went back down to under 20s, but certainly when he's came into the first team, Kev, you'll know this yourself, he's been fantastic. I think was a wee bit hard done by when Scott McBride came in, but Scott McBride, experienced player, East Fife and league football, so it was always going to be a tough one. But having said that, Kieran Macaulay just won the Conference A with under 20s. He was playing in the 5-0 game against Newton Grange Star. That was that I was at Friday night. Obviously, we've got to congratulate Spartans on winning Conference B. Myself and Sean, we've been to a few under 20s games. I don't know about you guys, but I think the under 20s games have been sometimes as enjoyable as the senior games I've been to. Don't ask me how many games I've been to overall this season, because I've lost count and under 20s and senior football. But we've got to congratulate the Kelty boys and obviously the Spartans guys, some of which we've seen playing for the first team as well, similar to Kelty.
Yeah, I did catch a few of the 20s games right at the back of the start of the season, I suppose, when it was still nice evenings and stuff like that. I think I got maybe getting soft in my old age. I didn't venture out too much when it was through the winter months and stuff like that. Mainly because it's more difficult for me taking pictures when it's dark, and you don't get the same quality of image. So that's my excuse. It's nothing to do with the fact that it's too cold outside. So I saw a few of the 20s games at the start of the season, and certainly from a Celtic perspective, you kind of knew even way back then, September, October time, that there were going to be a side that would take a bit of beating for the young guys.
Omni Shambles, discuss. Who wants to go first?
I mean, I'm happy to jump in. You know my views already. A few weeks back, I had a wee rant, didn't I? And it's kind of gone for there, but it's just a disgrace. It's an utter disgrace that a club like Bonnyrigg, not just like, take it to one side, the rejection of the licence is one thing, but if you know they're going to get turned in for a licence and are one of 3 teams in the playoffs, the other 2 teams are going to get their licence, why wait till the first working day after the playoffs have finished to say, oh, well done, by the way, you aren't getting up? Why do that? It's an utter shambles, and whoever's in charge of this side of things, the SFA, should be hanging their head in shame for it. Now, the other thing, obviously, in terms of why they've had their licence rejected, they threw in this requirement for floodlights for the entry-level licence after all these East of Scotland teams had signed up and paid their 10 grand or whatever it is to essentially start the process. I don't know any business in the world that can get away with saying, oh, give us this down payment and we're going to change the rules after we've taken your money, and get away with it in a court of law. So I hope the SFA have covered their backsides, because if not, they could be in for a world of pain for all these clubs that didn't know they were going to have to get floodlights, and now they're being told that's the case. But roads are getting them installed in the next 2 months. So even if you're saying they've not got them right now and that's the only reason, why wouldn't you give the same privilege you've given to Whitehill Welfare, the same privilege you've given to civil service rollers, and say, look, we know you're a well-run club, we know you're good for it, you're going to get a year or so to put plans in place to get floodlights. Why should clubs like that be given that kind of, like, not advantage, but given that time to get themselves sorted, whereas clubs that have only just had this thrown at them recently, and I include the likes of Camelin in this as well, if you know they're getting plans in place, or like Rose have already got them in place and it's happening, how can you possibly justify not giving that club a licence? It's an utter nonsense.
Bonnyrigg would be a really good addition to the Lowland League. Along with Kelty, they were probably the 2 standout sides in the last few seasons of the Super League. And certainly this year, since they've moved into the East of Scotland Conference B, they've been streets ahead of everybody else in that conference. So I know there is still a bit of criteria to be met in terms of eligibility for the Lowland League, but I think we could assume that that is probably all going to fall into place in time for next season. So I would certainly think if they are able to, and I think certainly they look to be in the box seat in Conference B. I can't see anybody catching them now. They only need, I think, 5 points from their last 5 games to make it into the playoffs. So I think if they are able to get through that and make it into the Lowland League, then I think you could see Bonnyrigg making the same sort of impact in the league that Kelly have made.
You were there, Sean. It was East Kilbride versus Bonnyrigg Rose in the South Challenge Cup final at Megaland. Do you want to take us through the game, Sean?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you say, it was East Kilbride against Bonnyrigg Rose in South Challenge Cup final. It was a pretty quiet first half, but I found it to be quite entertaining despite the lack of goals and at points the lack of chances. Both keepers, I think, played really well. Both made some really good saves in the first half. And then, well, to be honest, in those first 70-75 minutes as well, although there weren't chances, there was a few standout performances. Sean Winter had a few chances playing down the wing. For Bonnyrigg, the Ross Gray, he played outstanding, and there was a few. It's definitely a Bonnyrigg crowd that were at the game, and there was a bit of disappointment when he got taken off towards the end of the game. And again, Dean Brett had a really good game at the back for Bonnyrigg. But it did take until the 75th minute for the scoring to open, and to be honest, from 75th minute on, it was quite an entertaining game. There was obviously 3 goals in there, and there was also some drama at the end as well. So it kind of kicked off with a 75th minute goal from BJ Colley, was the quickest to react after a free kick. From distance, it rattled off the crossbar. Defender then headed it home to give the Lowland League champions the advantage. Didn't last long though, as Bonnyrigg came flying back, and after 80 minutes it was Lee Curry. Really good free kick that he managed to curl in to bring it back to 1-1. 3 minutes later was BJ Call again, fired home with his second of the game with just over 5 minutes remaining. That was it as far as goals. It was East Kilbride that went off 2-1 winners. After that second goal though, Bonnyrigg didn't give up, and they were still pushing for that extra goal. It got a little bit heated towards the end, and there was a couple of red cards as Lee Curry and Dean Brett both red carded for what just seemed to be dissent. Apparently it's a referee that's got a bit of reputation for not liking to get questioned very much. Although I'm not sure how much Dean Brett would have been questioning him. He was quite up in his face, to be honest, before he got sent off. A bit heated in those last sort of 15-20 minutes, but overall it was a really good game to watch. Despite the fact that they're separated by an entire league, the two sides, they were very evenly matched, and they both had their chances. Both put on a show for the fans despite the lack of goals in that first 75 minutes. But no, it was a really good game to be at. I thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Bit of a ding-dong battle between two teams that probably don't have as much difference between them as the league tables would suggest. We'll obviously get into Bonnyrigg later on in this podcast, no doubt, but in terms of the Lowland. But if you put them in the Lowland this year, you'd expect them to be top half.
Yep.
So, yeah, they've had a cracking season themselves. Their little Achilles heel from what we've seen in the cup competitions does tend to be when they're chasing a game at the end of it, and red cards tend to start flying. But otherwise, sounds like great entertainment if the fans were able to kind of last through to the final 10-15. And well done to Kilby, because obviously they were a bit down on themselves after the Cove Rangers playoff game, and Stuart Malcolm didn't know if he was still going to be in the job. There was just a wee bit of an atmosphere of kind of sadness, I guess, around the camp, but they've managed to dispel that, bounce back. Mal's been kept on. That's the other thing to note. So they're going into next season on a high rather than a low as a result of this cup win, and that could be vital, especially with everything that's going on just now and over the summer.
Start with the under-20s game that me and you were at, Sean. So obviously it was for the league title, if you will. Spartans ran out 3-0 winners against Kelty Hearts. Goals from Joe Tate and Cameron Dawson before the break, and a fitting finale for captain Mikey Allen sealed the win for Spartans. Yeah, they won the Development League and their third piece of silverware inside a week. The man of the match for us was Isaac Mackey. Sean, I think we both agreed that he played really well. He was solid and involved in a lot of the movement going forward, kind of unsettling Kelty a wee bit, but it was between him and I think Mikey Allen had a brilliant game, his last game as captain for Spartans under-20s. But for the stats, it was 40 games, 22 clean sheets, which I noticed Chris Pedden said only the 22. 167 goals scored and 33 conceded. So, yeah, massive well done to Spartans. Fantastic. When I seen them, obviously I got a wee bit of stick from Muzz Hand, but quite rightly. Development League Conference A champions, Development League overall champions, League Cup winners, Knockout Cup winners. We'll probably speak a wee bit more about the under-20s, probably not in this episode. I don't really think Spartans or Kelty were both at their best, in all honesty. It was a bit of a weird game. I've certainly seen Kelty play better. They were missing a few guys, but similarly to Spartans as well, because I was speaking to Josh Wishart's dad and he was saying similar, but overall, Spartans, I think, more than deserved winners of the game, certainly.
Yeah, I think over the 90 minutes, we were definitely the more dominant side. Both sides have had a brilliant year, I think, at the under-20s level. But, yeah, in this game in particular, I think Spartans were they were a bit more structured on the day, caused a lot of problems for Kelty, I think, caused them to come out of position quite a bit, and like you say, Mackey he caused a lot of problems. I think he was a bit too quick for the guys at the back for Kelty on the day. But yeah, well deserved win in the end. But both sets of under-20 should be very happy with how their seasons went, because they both sides done tremendously well over the season.
Particularly in the Lowland League, where I see the things that go on, particularly here at the football club. There's so many people I could name that this club wouldn't run if it wasn't for the people behind the scenes that make sure the game goes on a Saturday, that make sure that the end of season dance runs smoothly, that programmes are printed every week, that the gates are open and there's somebody there to let somebody through a turnstile. They're the lifeblood of every club. The players go out in the park and they perform and they do what they do. But again, there's so many of them in every club. There isn't a club that you couldn't look at in this league. And even what you guys do, with the Lowland League Catchup, if there wasn't somebody like yourselves doing this, then, as I said to you earlier on, you need to have that outlet where there's somewhere we can have conversations like this, where it gets out into the media as to what's actually taking place within the league itself. So we need all these kind of people involved in various aspects of the club. So, I think you're right in what you're saying. There's too many to mention. Name,
definitely.
Within any club, I wouldn't like to sit there and say how many people there are that make sure that clubs run. And what I'll maybe highlight on is when Selkirk left the Lowland League, and the devastation that actually caused to not to just the playing staff, but to all the people who had been been involved with that club over the years. Because all of a sudden, their whole life came to an end. Because everything that they were and wanted to be was associated with Selkirk Football Club. And I know that I spent time with some of the directors and backroom staff from a pastoral point of view at the end of their demise. So it means everything to them. These the clubs that you are involved with yourselves, and the fans are passionate about that. And to see a club, disappear out of a league, even as an opposing team, it's not nice. It's not nice at all to think that club will never be able to play a game of football again, and that the fans will never have the opportunity to go and see them again. And that's tough, really tough.
We obviously want to thank everyone that listens, the players, the managers, the clubs, everyone that really gets involved, and obviously to the league and George Fraser for their support also. And we'll see you next week.
See you later.